Alex had always believed that choosing a roommate was like selecting a partner in crime, someone to share the highs and lows of life with. Signed the year-long lease with Jenna, excitement filled her heart. They both seemed compatible, sharing similar interests and aspirations, or so Alex thought. Months rolled by in relative harmony, laughter echoing through their shared space as they navigated the ups and downs of young adulthood together. As time wore on, Alex began to notice subtle changes in Jenna's behavior. With small things, a pile of dirty dishes left unattended for days, empty pizza boxes strewn about the living room floor. First, Alex tried to overlook these minor nuisances after all. Everyone had their off days. But soon enough, the little annoyances turned into an avalanche of chaos. Jenna's music blasted at odd hours, drowning out Alex's attempts to unwind after long days at work. The apartment grew increasingly cluttered, as Jenna disregarded shared spaces entirely. Alex found herself stepping over clothes left on the floor and avoiding common areas that had become unbearable due to Jenna's lack of consideration. He attempted to address these issues directly with Jenna, hoping for an understanding conversation that would restore peace between them. But every attempt only fueled more tension. Instead of acknowledging her missteps, Jenna became defensive and accusatory, claiming that Alex was too uptight or simply didn't understand her lifestyle choices. Each interaction escalated further into arguments where neither party felt heard or respected. As weeks turned into months and the lease neared its end date, Alex felt trapped in an increasingly hostile environment. Just when she thought relief was around the corner, Jenna dropped a bombshell. She insisted she had nowhere else to go and refused to leave even after their lease expired. Alex's heart sank at this revelation. How could someone be so entitled? She never expected this from someone she considered a friend just months prior. Desperation seeped into her thoughts as sleepless nights piled up under the weight of anxiety and frustration. All she wanted was a peaceful home again, one free from constant conflict, but it felt like that dream was slipping further away with each passing day spent cohabiting with someone who clearly had no regard for boundaries or mutual respect. Promised camaraderie now morphed into survival mode, a daily battle against not just messy living conditions, but also against someone's blatant disregard for basic decency. After several weeks of trying to coexist with Jenna post-lease expiration, Alex had reached the breaking point. The atmosphere in the apartment was thick with tension, and it seemed as though Jenna took pleasure in pushing boundaries. That night, after a long week at work, Alex returned home hoping for some peace and quiet. But as she approached the door, she could hear loud music blasting from inside the apartment. Her heart sank as she realized that Jenna had thrown a party without even bothering to inform her. As Alex entered, the chaos unfolded before her eyes. A crowd of unfamiliar faces filled the living room. Laughter mixed with shouts drowned out any hope of calm. Drinks were spilling on the floor, and people crowded around, some sitting on furniture that Alex cherished but was now being used carelessly. "Jenna," Alex shouted over the noise, searching for her roommate amid the throng. Eyes finally met. Jenna flashed a smug smile before turning back to her guests without acknowledging Alex's presence. Feeling humiliated and powerless, Alex stepped outside onto the balcony for some fresh air. He could hear neighbors yelling from their own apartments about the ruckus. Complaints echoing through thin walls didn't help her embarrassment. Everyone was judging her for this situation that spiraled beyond control. A night dragged on into chaos. Belongings began to go missing from common areas, where drunk partygoers wandered aimlessly. Among them were items Alex had accumulated over time, things that held sentimental value, now lost in a sea of recklessness. Eventually, unable to bear it any longer, Alex slipped away unnoticed and sought refuge at Sarah's place just down the street. There, she poured out her frustrations, recounting each detail, the noise, complaints from neighbors ringing in her ears like an unbearable drumbeat. "Think she can do this?" Alex asked Sarah angrily as they sat on a cozy couch surrounded by warm lighting and comforting familiarity. "She can walk all over you," Sarah replied thoughtfully. "Have every right to demand your space back." Alex nodded slowly while tears pricked at her eyes. It felt like fighting against an unwinnable battle, waged by someone who thought they owned everything around them, including others' rights to live peacefully. "Take action," Alex confessed quietly but firmly. Uncertainty lingered in her tone, despite how resolute those words sounded. Leaned closer, speaking softly yet intently. "You need evidence if you want to kick her out, something solid so Mr. Thompson will listen." That idea sparked something inside Alex, a flicker of hope amidst despair, an inkling of what needed to be done next. gather proof of Jenna's misconducts before confronting both Jenna and Mr. Thompson again. With newfound determination brewing within her heart, Alex knew it would require careful planning, but felt invigorated by thoughts swirling about potential justice waiting just beyond reach. Alex had reached a breaking point. A situation with Jenna became unbearable, and the tension in their apartment was palpable. Each day felt like an uphill battle against the tide of Jenna's unyielding defiance. Alex sat on her bed, scrolling through her phone. She confided in Sarah about the latest incident, a loud party thrown by Jenna that had not only disrupted their home, but also drawn complaints from neighbors. "What do I do, Sarah? I can't just sit here and let her ruin my life," Alex whispered, desperation evident in her voice. "Gather evidence," Sarah suggested confidently. "Document everything. Hidden cameras might be extreme, but if you have proof of what she's doing, you can take it to Mr. Thompson." The idea sparked something within Alex. Eyes that if she wanted to reclaim her space and peace, she needed to take action, real action. The next day, armed with a sense of purpose, Alex set up discreet cameras around communal areas, the living room where parties often erupted and the kitchen where Jenna's messes seemed to multiply overnight. As days turned into weeks, Alex monitored the footage carefully. Witnessed was shocking. Not only were there parties every weekend with loud music and shouting, but the videos revealed a darker side to Jenna's behavior. Friends of Jenna vandalized furniture during these chaotic gatherings, while others made rude comments about other tenants who dared to complain. Stood out vividly in Alex's mind, the camera captured Jenna drunkenly hurling insults at a neighbor, simply for asking them to keep it down. That moment solidified her resolve. This was no longer just about living conditions, it was about standing up against someone who thrived on chaos and disrespect. With mounting evidence at hand, footage showing repeated violations of community guidelines, along with testimonies from disgruntled neighbors, Alex arranged a meeting with Mr. Thompson. He felt nervous yet empowered as she walked into his office with a USB drive full of incriminating recordings and written statements. "Mr. Thompson," Alex began, her voice steady despite the anxiety gnawing at her stomach, "I need to discuss my roommate." She presented him with everything meticulously organized, timestamps marked on each clip highlighting unacceptable behavior, along with notes detailing incidents corroborated by neighbors' experiences. Mr. Thompson listened intently as he reviewed the material before finally looking up at her with raised eyebrows. Had no idea things had escalated this far, he admitted gravely after watching several clips showcasing Jenna's reckless disregard for others' comfort. With determination in his gaze, Mr. Thompson assured Alex that appropriate steps would be taken immediately. "I'll issue an eviction notice based on this evidence." A wave of relief washed over Alex. Justice felt within reach after months spent feeling powerless against Jenna's manipulative antics. That evening marked a turning point not just for Alex, but for everyone affected by Jenna's disruptive presence in their community. Spread among neighbors that action was being taken against Jenna. They rallied together in support of one another, a silent bond forming amongst those who had been wronged or disrespected by her behavior over time. In those moments leading up to the eviction notice being served, Alex found solace knowing she wasn't alone anymore. She had built alliances within her own building, filled with empathy toward shared struggles while finding courage through adversity. And this chapter wasn't merely about retaliation. It was about reclaiming one's narrative and restoring balance back into their lives, as individuals stepped forward collectively against injustice inflicted upon them all. N. Once Jenna was evicted, the air in the apartment complex felt lighter, as if a dark cloud had finally lifted. Alex took a moment to breathe deeply, feeling an overwhelming sense of relief wash over her. A chaos that had invaded her life for so long was gone, and she could once again reclaim her space and peace. However, Jenna was not one to accept defeat quietly. Determined to retaliate, she began spreading rumors about Alex throughout the neighborhood. Jenna painted herself as the victim, claiming that Alex had been unreasonable and cruel, manipulating others' perceptions to suit her narrative. Despite this smear campaign, something remarkable began to happen. Neighbors who once stayed silent started stepping forward with their own stories about Jenna's behavior. Experiences of loud parties, damaged property, and tensions that had flared during her time living there. Each story shared added weight to Alex's cause, reinforcing what she knew all along: she wasn't alone in this battle. Social gatherings within the complex, once filled with whispers about Alex, now became lively discussions, where everyone compared notes on problematic roommates or landlords they had encountered before. A support from other residents grew stronger no longer. Were they just passive observers, but allies eager to stand together against any form of injustice? Days turned into weeks following Jenna's departure. Alex found herself feeling empowered by this newfound camaraderie among neighbors. Her heart swelled each time someone approached her with encouragement or shared their own tales of overcoming toxic living situations. Slowly but surely, she built friendships that strengthened bonds across floors and hallways. People who understood her struggle resonated like echoes through shared laughter and heartfelt conversations. With every passing day in this supportive environment, Alex learned how important it is for communities to rally around one another when faced with adversity. He realized that standing up for oneself doesn't just create personal triumphs, it also fosters connections and creates spaces where respect thrives, a lesson that transcended beyond individual experiences into collective strength. As time marched on since Jenna's eviction, and after reflecting upon everything she'd endured, Alex felt invigorated by the choices made amidst turmoil. He often thought back on those sleepless nights spent wrestling with anxiety under chaotic conditions at home, but now understood those struggles led her down a path toward empowerment instead of despair. Moments when doubt crept back in during quiet evenings at home alone, thoughts lingering over whether there were better ways things could have played out, she would remind herself how courage rippled through community ties forged through mutual understanding. Being bold enough meant standing firm against lies while embracing authenticity regardless of potential backlash. Ultimately liberated from past burdens weighing heavily on her heart, Alex stepped into brighter tomorrows, enriched by newfound friendships forged amid challenges faced together rather than apart, a testament showing resilience lies not only within individuals themselves, but also within communities willing to unite against wrongdoings wherever they arise.